One of the most amazing things that you learn as a Drew Yoga teacher are the energy block release sequences. And this is something that I've spent quite a lot of time examining and researching with different technologies. And in this video, I'm going to show you before and after scans using electro-acupuncture. So often known as EAV, electro-acupuncture according to Vol. This is something where I can link someone up to a computer, and through sensors on the head and the wrists and the ankles, we're able to scan lots of different lines of resistance, and it goes beyond the classic meridians that people might be familiar with if they understand just traditional acupuncture. And I'm going to show you the scans, and hopefully you'll be amazed at the impact that these energy block release sequences can have. So here we have the graphs or the charts of the electro-acupuncture scanning. And what we have on the left is we have here at the top the initial scan that was done before the energy block release sequence. And what we need to point out is each of these different bars represents a different meridian. And in electro-acupuncture, there are many more meridians than there are in classic Chinese medicine. So they measure 47 channels or lines of energy, and there is a little key that you can look up each of the numbers under each of the lines, and you can see what area of the body it relates to. But as an overview, what you're trying to see when you look at a scan of this as a general overview is you want it to be as flat as possible, and you also want to have as much green as possible. So at the moment in this initial scan, we can see that the energy tends to be dipping down into the cooler colours, into the blues with most of the time. There's a few green lines in there and a couple of orange ones. So generally, the more it goes into the warmer colours, such as the reds and the oranges, that's kind of too much energy, and going into the cooler colours is kind of too little energy. And when you're in the green, that is an ideal balanced energy. So this person's got a little bit of kind of up and down going on, so it's a little bit disrupted in its overall flow of energy, and it's generally on the cooler side, and that is a reflection of where they are at that point in time. And you can see that in the graph that's underneath it, that the pattern is almost exactly the same. But if I was to actually look at the actual readings for each of those, they do vary slightly, but the pattern is essentially the same. We can then come up to the graph on the right side here, and this is 1 day later. And what you can see is the impact the following day is that it's a lot flatter, which means there's a much better flow of energy, there's less disruption, and there's a lot more energy. So what we're seeing now is a predominance of warmer colours. So the energy block release sequence has really brought a lot of energy into the meridian system, and it's created a much better balance with a flatter line across them. So that's a much improved profile compared to the previous day. We then go to the day after that, and what we can see is that the energy has started to come down, and we're now starting to see that, yes, there's a little bit more ups and downs in the graph, so it's not as flat as it was, but we're now starting to see a lot more green in there. So if you were to count up the number of greens, it's much more than any of the previous scans. And so what we can see from this is that the effect of the energy block release sequence on the meridian system is not straight away, it's not immediately afterwards, and it starts to appear in the days afterwards. And this is something we see in a lot of different energy medicine modalities, is that there's this 2 to 3 day window of change that occurs after a treatment. And we're starting to see this now with energy block release sequences, that there is quite an amazing energizing of the whole system and a balancing. And then as it starts to come into a more balanced state, you're seeing a lot more green, balanced energy lines in there.